Well, George is probably the best guitarist in the band, and he plays bass as well, so it's quite funny. Got to humble him. He's a really good bassist. But like occasionally he'll pick up guitar practice, just start shredding. You're like, just like, you know, the greatest hits, 2010 or greatest hits medley. You're like, yeah, cool. Hey, I'm Lewis. I play guitar in the band Oversize, and you are listening/watching the Chronicles of Podcast.
Hello world, Wednesday 13 here.
Hey, this is Tom Stain.
Hello everybody, I'm Ronnie Ledrew.
Yes, my friends, my name's John Mahon.
What's going on, everybody? It's Tom.
And it's Jamie. Welcome to the Chronicles of Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, nays and M's, this week we are joined by a member of a band who are releasing their debut brand new album in only 2 days' time. He's so excited we may need to pause this at some point to check his vital signs.
Oh.
Hopefully, though, we can contain the excitement and make sure this interview doesn't fall apart. Here to talk all about the debut album Vital Signs, available on February 28th, and so much more. We are joined by guitarist Lewis, so everyone put your hands together as we bring you the Chronicles of Oversize.
How do you feel about that?
I'll be polite and no comment on that.
Normally I apologise for him, but every time I said that to has been like, I fucking love it. What's wrong with you? Like, okay,
there you go.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly. People love that shit.
They do.
Mate. You do.
Yeah,
I appreciate the time and effort, Ben, and I know you've at least Google searched us, so that's quite good.
See, I did my research. Tom's found a kindred spirit. Someone is disappointed by my
top 5 on Spotify. Top 5 on Spotify.
Love it. First and foremost, Lewis, how's your personal Wednesday been?
Yeah, it's not been too bad, thanks. So yeah, it's been pretty busy. Up early. I'd work in London today, so yeah. If you like getting trains in rush hour, then I suppose it's pretty good. But if you don't, then fine.
On the daily, mate.
On the daily. Better to be chatting to you guys.
Oh, stop it. Way too kind.
So how we like to start these things, we like to take it right back to the beginning, the days of young Master Lewis. What did you want to be when you were growing up in your formative years? Has it always been music for you, or something completely different?
Formative years, for sure, music. Like my mum always used to call me Fad Boy because like I would just be like and that might sound inappropriate, but in terms of like fads, you know, like jumping onto the next fad or whatever.
See.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like FAD. And yeah, I was just like interested in everything, and every week I'd be interested in something else. And sort of when I hit music, that was kind of it for me. Then that was like, everyone was like, oh, thank God, like he's finally found something he's going to commit to. So yeah, formative years, pre-formative years, I'd said I really wanted to be a wrestler, probably.
Oh, go on, love it.
You know what I mean? I was obsessed with wrestling, you know, and I would watch it with my nan every Friday. My nan, bless her, still watches it now. I haven't watched it in a while, but she keeps me updated what's going on. So yeah, then I sort of got to secondary school and just started playing music and found punk rock, and that was done. So yeah, always wanted to be a rocker, really.
When you say you were like went for all these fads, I'm kind of intrigued now what a couple of these fads were.
Just like I was one of those kids that just like always dressing up as something. My nan was like a seamstress. I'm talking this whole podcast about my nan.
Sounds like a legend.
Yeah, she is. My nan was a seamstress, and she would just like sew me outfits and stuff. So like whatever I was into, I would just have outfits. Like there's pictures of me as Spider-Man at Legoland.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Love that.
Or I went up to London for a weekend with my mum, and I'm wearing like a Queen's Guards outfit in London. Like, and probably my mum shouldn't have enabled me, but yeah, maybe somebody thought I might go into fashion or at least some weird cosplay stuff. But yeah, no, I was just interested in everything. Pretty standard stuff for like a young lad to be interested in. football for a bit, and then got bored of that, and then Pokemon, Digimon, Beyblades, just anything really, anything that the consumer market was aiming for 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-old kids. I was lapping it up. So, but wrestling was like pretty constant throughout I was a kid, and then found I started getting music when I was sort of like slightly before secondary school age, probably when most people start listening to music. And that was it. And a lot of that probably came from wrestling, to be fair, because some of the entrance tunes were massive.
Oh, huge.
Limp Bizkit performing live on, I can't remember what show it was, a WrestleMania or something off.
WrestleMania 19.
Or Motorhead, Triple H coming out to Motorhead on what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
iconic.
I was going to say, obviously, to do what you do, you've got to have a love for music, specifically alternative music. I was going to ask where that comes from, but clearly it's wrestling theme songs, and it makes complete sense.
Yeah, like I would literally have like all the CDs of like the compilations of the entrance songs, and just my poor granddad at the time, bless him, he's just sat there watching me do all of the entrance.
Love that so.
Like, I'll tell you what, I'll send you guys a photo. It's like the most British photo ever, like your classic like old person's living room. I'll send you guys a photo. You can put it in the pod of me just in full Undertaker attire, and
yes,
a reference. But anyway, we're talking too much about wrestling. I think it's because it's all just been added to Netflix, hasn't it? And like it's just been my comfort watch. Like in bed when I can't sleep, I've just been like just going back and watching anything from 2000 to 2004. I'm just like,
I've been doing it.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, when it first came back, when we went onto Netflix, the first thing I decided to watch was the Invasion pay-per-view. I don't know why that one of all of them, but yeah, it's a great show.
What did your parents have music on when you were a kid? Like, did they listen to much stuff going? Oh, not really.
My mum's really musical, like musically talented, but she's not like a music nerd. So kind of just like pop music, and she's like has this weird like she grew up playing instruments and stuff, but has like a weird talent, where I remember she got this tin whistle out one day. I was like, what the fuck is that? She's Irish, and she got this Irish tin whistle out, and she'd be like, oh, name me a song, and I'll name a song. She'd just play it. I'm like, that was weird. That's so weird, but not really. There would always be music on in the car. But yeah, like I just loved watching the music channels when I was a kid. And a lot of it came from that. Like when I was young, like that second Nickelback album, the first big Nickelback album, I was like, oh yeah, what's this? I think it probably came from like, the Spider-Man 1 soundtrack with Jesse from Saliva in it as well.
Yeah.
Being inspired and just being like, I don't know, it's the guys from Spider-Man, just being like, yeah, this is fucking sick. So like, and like again, Limp Bizkit, from like wrestling and stuff, and then that was like kind of my real early entry level into like alternative. I mean, I really like Busted when I was a little kid.
Love that.
As a guitar entry into guitar, like that's the first ever concert I went to. But saw them at Wembley, and McFly opened, and I was just like, yeah, this is. And all of that sort of stuff, like School of Rock, even like the Freaky Friday movie, like like they're based about bands and just thinking bands are cool, basically. And then through video game soundtracks as well, like huge thing for me. And then like got to an age, I was pretty young on MySpace, and then just went. The floodgates open for like just finding music. It was so easy to find music, and I was just finding bands that I thought were like amazing, but would be the equivalent of having like less than 1,000 streams on Spotify now. Do you know what I mean? But just being like, but when you're a kid, you don't care about anything other than music. You like hear a song and you think it's like the same as what's being played on the radio, don't you? So that was it really. I kind of just forged my own path in that regard.
What can you remember that moment you went from though, like, I love this sort of music to I want to start learning how to play guitar to play this sort of music myself?
Yeah, like I just to play an instrument, I played violin in like primary school, and I didn't really care about it, to be honest. And then when I got to secondary school, like they had that list of things you could learn, and drums were on there, and I don't know why I was like, I could do that, I want to do that. So yeah, I played drums for like a year, and then I just like I ended up teaching myself bass by accident. A friend left a bass round mine. Honestly, it was so stupid. Like left this bass around mine, and I was like, oh, let's see how difficult this is. Then I was like, ah. And then like a bit of paper was hanging out of the gig bag, and it was tabs, but I didn't know they were tabs then. And I literally went, I wonder if those are supposed to be strings and those numbers are frets. And then I just played a Green Day song, and I was like, oh, I was like, fuck drums, this is sick. So then I like just played bass, and then kind of halfway through school just picked up guitar. I was like, oh, fuck it, might as well pick up guitar then. And it was a similar thing, to be honest. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, but I'm by no means a virtuoso. There's definitely 9-year-old kids in their bedrooms that are better at guitar than me.
Well, I wouldn't sell yourself that short, mate. You could like releasing your debut album and all this sort of stuff. You're doing all right. You're doing all right.
I read a review earlier that was talking about how there's no good technical stuff on the album, so I'm sure he agrees. Well, I'll do a shreddy solo on the next one.
Oh, that's it. Just shreddy solo. That's all it is. Just shreddy solo the whole way through.
All the way through. What about this? And just for him. Yeah. What about this, mate?
Yeah.
No vocals.
It's a Steve Vai record. What's this?
So bringing it onto the band, how did you guys meet in the first place?
So the majority of us grew up, and I said majority, 4 out of 5 of us all grew up in the same place, small little city, Salisbury, all around the same age. And yeah, there's not much to do around Salisbury. And when we were kind of like of a certain age, you know, sort of 16-ish, it was just like there's loads of shows on. It was really cool. Like pretty much every pub would put on live music, and it was just meant like DIY shows could happen all the time. Like people just put on shows with their mates' bands, and so I kind of met people sort of through that scene, and just sort of like the alternative culture. Like it was so, you know, it was such a thing back then. I'm talking maybe like 2007, 8, 9-ish time. You know, still on the tail end of that MySpace era. Social media hadn't started rotting people's brains just yet, and you know, people still generally would like sort of, if you wanted to do something, you'd have to leave the house. So, you know, not a dig, but you know, you'd either stay in, and
true though.
Or you'd go and hang out at a skate park, or you'd go hang out. Salisbury was the Guildhall, you know, sit on the steps of Guildhall, and hang out. And so, like, yeah, just met the guys through that, and then kind of everyone moved away and was doing their own things for uni or whatever. And when I moved back from uni, I kind of I was in another band at the time, and we were touring quite a lot and playing a lot of shows. And I just started writing some music in my downtime, and like completely different from the stuff I was playing in my other band. And yeah, I sent Sam some just like really janky demos that I'd been writing, and because I knew Sam from way back, and he had been doing other projects, and I remember thinking, oh, Sam's got a really cool voice. I really like his songwriting style. One day I'd like to, you know, if I ever do a project that's that sort of in that ballpark, I'm going to hit Sam up. And yeah, he dug it, and he was working with Shuttler, who plays drums, the other Sam. And he was like, well, I've got a drummer. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even, okay, cool. And, I guess, did we just become a band? And yeah, and then we just basically started writing up in Shuttler's. He had a little loft space, and he had an electric drum kit in there, and we had a couple of 1-watt amps that we would bring up to the loft, and just like sort of jam after work and stuff. And that's kind of the origin of Oversize. But we on and off for like a year, 2 years, probably not 2 years, but like year and a half on and off. We might not even meet for like 4 or 5 months, depending on who was busy or what. And then it kind of got to a point where we were kind of everybody else's other bands had fizzled out or stopped, and I left my other band, and we're like, we should do this, like make this a proper band. So yeah, that was kind of how Oversize formed. And then our original guitarist left pretty early on, sort of like into within the first sort of 6 months of us gigging and stuff. And I'd seen Taz. I had a few mutual friends with Taz, and Taz popped up on my Instagram, shredding guitar, all the Midwest emo, janky, wangly shit. And I was like, oh, I can play. And was like, okay, cool. And actually, Taz, I knew the name from, we released like our first proper single, Drive, self-released it, and Taz was like shouting about it in a bunch of Facebook forums, being like, yo, this band is sick, I don't know if anyone's heard of it. So I was like, well, they like us. So and they can play guitar, so why not? And I didn't find out till later. Taz originally thought I was asking them to join play drums because they were playing drums in a hardcore band at the time. I was like, no, guitar. And Taz was like, well, I've never played guitar in a band before, but sure. So then Taz joined. But funnily enough, Taz is actually from like a town not too far, about half an hour down the road from Salisbury. So we all grew up in the same neck of the woods for sure.
That's awesome. I just love that. It's like, you saw a video of them shredding on guitar, and they thought that you wanted them to be a drummer. It's great.
Yeah, I think because like they were like in a band playing drums, playing shows, like actively as a drummer, but would just post videos of like guitar stuff on Instagram as like a sort of like a. I was like, that's good enough.
A question you probably get a lot, but I'm more interested in what came before. Obviously, where does the name come from? But what did you have before the name came about?
Do you know what? Like, we didn't have a name before it. It came like reasonably early on into that, like in that early process. I was when we were meeting in a loft. I was kind of like, we need to put a name to this stuff, and we kind of had a thought. And Sam had a previous project with another friend from Salisbury, and that was called like Blister, I think, or Blister, it's something around that. And so that's kind of cool. I think it was like named after a Jimmy Eat World song. But we never committed to it. And then honestly, we've had this debate recently because I think I came up with the name, but Sam said he came up with the name. And I'm like, I don't think not because I want to take credit for it, because honestly, like looking at now, probably wouldn't have this band name because it's a fucking nightmare to Google us. Like, and also this is like before the oversized clothing was a fashion trend.
Yeah.
So like the word oversized wasn't really bandied around a lot of the time. And I think I can't remember what I thought of it, but I just thought that sounds like a cool 90s band. And we searched it up and there was no one called it. I was like, should we just call it that for now? Everyone was like, yeah, and then it just stuck. But looking now, it's like a nightmare. You type in oversized band and you're just like a million links to sort of like cheap Chinese warehouse factory, of selling knockoff band t-shirts. So yeah, probably not the smartest business move from a SEO perspective.
Yeah, but it took me a while to find you, but I did find you in the end. But I was getting
band.
Yeah, I was getting a lot of Asian posts and
yeah,
that sort of thing.
Yeah, it literally is. It literally is. Yeah. But that, yeah, not an exciting story on that. It was a word that
That's all right.
Sounds cool. Not named after. A few people have asked if we're named after the Basement song, Oversized, and it's not.
No. It's all good, man. I mean, I don't know how much you have involvement in the songwriting process. Is that mostly Sam, or do you get involved in that as well?
No, very much. So we actually all write. It's quite unique.
Oh wow!
Together, yeah, we all write pretty equally, I would say. So Big Sam, our drummer, writes. He plays guitar. We're all multi-instrumentalists. We can all play bits of everything. So Sam will write full demos, guitar, bass, drums, or ideas of like a chorus or a verse or an idea, but it will be like all of the instrumentation. Or George will come up with like a main riff, or Taz will come up with some bits and bobs, and then Sam writes the most of the vocals, certainly all the lyrics, maybe a few tweaks or to like melodies or final lyrics in the later stages from the rest of us. But I kind of like produce it internally. So somebody will come to me with a song, and then we will normally then sort of structure it and write it into a song together. So that's usually me or George or me or Sam or me or Taz that kind of write. So yeah, it's fun because it means when you hit that creative block, which so many people do, and me all the time, I can just go to one of the other guys. Anyone got an ideas or anything working on? And usually there's like, yeah, I've got a couple of songs. It's like enough to then get a spark going, and then it's like I'm inspired, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, now I've written a song. And yeah, so on Vital Signs, it's pretty evenly, I think, around 2 songs each that somebody at least came up with the main idea or the idea that brought the rest of the song together. So yeah, it's quite fun.
That's so cool. I love the idea that it shows that you all just keep swapping instruments. Yeah.
Yeah, because Shuttler can play guitar and bass. Taz obviously played drums in another band. I can play a little bit of drums, not that good. Like, I'm better at coming up with drum ideas than I am playing them, but I'm not like your typical guitarist, that just goes like mapped it out. So there's like 10 hands playing. But I think that like the good thing is, rather than like us physically swapping, it allows us to all be open with each other. Is you don't have that pressure. Well, I'm the guitarist, you're the drummer, you don't tell me how to write guitar. There's like none of that. It's like, because we all know, we all play, we all understand each other's instruments, that I can say to Sam, why don't we do that on the drums for that section? And he will be like, yeah, cool. Because we're all of that mindset of we're just writing a song, and whatever's best for the song will basically win. And if somebody doesn't like it, we have like an open challenge. Right? If you don't like something, then you have to come to the table with something better, or otherwise we're going to use it. So it's almost like an open challenge, like it's a come with a solution, not just finding a problem. So that's quite nice.
That's awesome.
I actually think that might be one of the first times I've ever had that answer, that everyone in the band can play multiple instruments and can all help write all aspects of a song. That's fascinating. I love that.
Yeah, it's cool. George is probably the best guitarist in the band, and he plays bass as well, so it's quite funny. got to humble him.
Yeah, you're too good, mate. Have 2 less strings.
No, he loves it. He's a really good bassist. But like occasionally he'll pick up a guitar, practice, just start shredding. You're like, okay, you're just like, the greatest hits 2010 Deathcore greatest hits medley. You're like, yeah, cool.
Yeah, oh, mate, I'll have that back now. Thank you. Yeah, I'll have that back. Check it. Yeah. All right, calm down. All right, calm down.
So, what about lyrics wise? Do you all help write lyrics as well?
No, that's mainly Sam. And I do think that's a good thing to go through like a single lens, because it has that continuity between songs. And like I said, like there will be little bits. It's happened a few times, but Sam's sent me like some demo vocals over, and I put them into our demo. We're always demoing stuff, and I've misheard a lyric, and then we've gone to like re-record them, and I've gone, oh, I thought it was this, and goes, oh, actually, I prefer what you thought I said than actually what I'm saying. Actually worked better, and it's always like, right, we'll just fucking change it to that then. So Sam does the lion's share of the vocals for sure, and then we kind of we always do like multiple stages of songs. So we'll have like the original like idea, which we call like a scratch, or we call it like a writing demo. That's then will get sent to Sam, and then Sam will come up with some ideas and send me some stuff back, and then we kind of rewrite the song then as like a second sort of stage. And then before we record, then we do like pre-prod, and then we do like basically like a rehearsal run of recording, just to really work out each section. And that's where we'll tweak all the drums and rewrite the drums. And at that stage, usually between Sam sending the demo vocals over and then that stage is then when we like finesse and tweak vocal ideas and work out harmonies. But Sam often writes a lot of the harmonies anyway, but then I do quite a lot of backing vocals as well, so I might have some ideas and lay some harms down. And and then we get to the studio and then we tweak it a little bit more there. So yeah.
I love that. I just love how it's one big collaboration, like it should be in a band. It's really nice to actually hear that.
Yeah, I mean, like it is weird in the sense that there's not a lot of bands, at least amongst peers that I know, um, that are like that. It really does tend to be like one person or two people write all of the music, um, which is cool. But it takes a lot of stress off me. It means I get to like play a bit of a producer and like not feel like the songwriting ends with me. That's really nice. Especially when you've got records. But it does mean that we have more than two. We have at least two SoundCloud accounts because we filled them all up with demos. So
Impressive.
It's not
we just
a bad
scrap them.
No.
Sometimes we're like, nah, scrap it. And also it's quite funny because when it's come to now, like we know we're going to have to play these songs live. A bunch of them we literally haven't played in a room together since they've been written, or like some of them were written not as a band in a room together. Some of them were written as someone's come up with an idea. Like good example is George wrote that main riff to Fall Apart, and we were like, yeah, that's cool. And then George came around my house and like we worked out the verse and we worked out the bridge, and then it was like, cool, that's done. And then we didn't play it until it was like, should we play this live? And then you kind of have to learn the song, like learn your own song, everyone. And that's happened in the last few weeks, getting ready for our album release shows. Like, I don't think maybe we jammed something clean, but a bunch of the non-single tracks, even Vital Signs, we wrote that in a room together in 20 minutes before a gig. And just as an album closer, because we knew we needed an album closer, and we were all together in the same place, and we are like, let's just quickly write a track on it. It's about 30 minutes, and we're like, cool, bank that. Like Tad has got the phone recording from us starting that song to the end of the song, and it's on the voice note. And then we kind of just like demoed it, put it in the studio, but never played it in a room together. So it's like, oh shit, we need to work out how to play this song live, like how are we gonna translate this from the record to live, because it's usually the other way around, right? Bands play songs live and then you translate it to records. So yeah, that happens quite a lot.
I love that track as well. That's from
you.
what I've listened to, that's my favorite song, Vital Signs. I
wow.
absolutely love it.
So funny, purely written as an album closer. We knew from the start we wanted to have like a bookend. It's quite a funny story from both the intro and the outro of the album, the first and last tracks. We had most of the album written, we had a bunch of songs written, but we didn't have an intro. And I was going through my hard drive looking for something else, accidentally opened a project. I was like, what's this? Because we always call songs stupid names as well when they're in the demo state, like stupid names. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, stupid. Clicked it, and it turned out to be Stalling. It was a demo of Stalling that Big Sam had written probably like a year, 2 years ago, and we'd never done anything with. I was like, this is kind of cool. Like, put it into Logic, like quickly swap some plugins around and did some edits. And I was like, this could work as an intro. I sent it, and that became the intro.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. And so we had the intro and we're like, right, we want to bookend the album. So let's write an outro that kind of plays off of the intro. It could be its own thing, but like it can be two halves as well. So yeah, it was super quick writing because we already had like the key and the chord progression and stuff. And we basically did another interpretation of that for that song. And yeah, it came together super, super quick. And we're like, cool, album closer. It's like a 5-minute track, job done. And then like when we first started sending it around to like friends, once we'd recorded the album, people kept coming up, love that song, love that song. We're like, what? It's the fucking closer. It's the album closer. What are you? There's 9 really good songs before this one. What about those? And everyone, no, I like that one. And then when we signed to Sharp Tone, Barley, the A&R guy, was like, yeah, I think this should be a single. I'm like, but we'd already heard it from a bunch of people as well. So we're just like, do you know what? Fuck it. Put it out. So we got like we cut a few sections out to make it not 5 minutes long. And yeah, it became a single. So, moral of the story is sometimes you don't need to try too hard writing a song, just let it happen.
Well, hey, exactly. That's the beauty of it, isn't it? So your sound is very distinct. I really like it. Basically, where you got sent a bunch of bands, it's like I want to speak to. And when I put yours on, I was like, I just love it. I can't describe what it's almost like you've created your own genre.
It's hard, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
how do you think I feel when people are like, okay, what does your band sound like? You're like, because also you don't know what people's benchmarks for certain genres are either. So it's like it can be really hard to describe. But no, I appreciate that. It's really interesting. Like I will be on record saying I don't think we've created anything like particularly unique, and we never set out to create anything new or genre defining. And I don't particularly feel like we've done that, but I think our approach is slightly different to other bands in a similar sound, and I think that's maybe what you're hearing. And the production, we wanted a really well produced album, and not just like poppy, like we wanted elements of it to be heavy and raw still, but just yeah, we wanted it to sonically feel, big. I think a lot of bands in the same sphere kind of go the other way. It's just a taste thing. You go for like a more raw, more earnest sort of closer sound, which is also really cool. But I think we like big hooks as well. We like big catchy choruses, and I think if you want to sort of lean into that, you've got to lean into a bit of production.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I appreciate your kind words.
Not at all, man. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. I'm not trying to suck your dick because you're here. Like, generally, I actually really, really love it. I enjoy it. I'm actually very excited for Friday. Because obviously your debut album, Vital Signs, is out this Friday, February 28th. Like, when this interview goes out, it's going to be out a week. It's out next Friday. This interview's out next Friday. But so people hopefully would have enjoyed the fuck out of it. And if you haven't, listen to it right now. But yeah, how as I can see it's behind you, obviously on the wall as well. How excited are you for the release, man?
Do you know what? Like, so we recorded this album in June. It would be 2 years ago. So yeah, 18 months ago, we recorded it before we were signed. So we had written it, and we went in and we spent our last pennies. We funded it ourselves. We're like, are we fucking mental? In this climate, spending all your money on an album when you're not even signed. But like we always wanted to be an album band. We knew we had to do it. So it was like that or nothing. We didn't want to do anything else. So kind of went in, recorded it, and then kind of put some feelers out, see if anyone was digging it. And it was about it was about a year, maybe like 8 or 9 months after recording it until we first got talking to Sharptone about it. And then obviously that process signing to a label takes a while, especially when you're like a smaller band like us. There's a lot of meeting, chatting, and talking through things and making sure it's a good fit for everyone. And so it's been a long time coming. So until about 2 weeks ago, I'm kind of like, I just want it out. Like, I'm kind of over it. Like, we've had these songs for 18 months and they've been written for 6 months before that. And, it's old to us. But since we started sort of like leading up to the album release and chatting with good people like yourselves and people that had listened to it outside of the band and want to talk to us about it, it's kind of like reinvigorated me somewhat, I guess, about the album. And it's like really weird talking to people that aren't in the band about the album. You guys talk to me. I'm like, how the fuck do you know? I'm like, how do you know? I'm like, oh yeah, people have listened to this and do want to talk about it. Not just me boring my girlfriend talking about it, So I'm kind of like, oh, people do like this. This is cool. Like, it's not just my friends bullshitting me. Like, like, yeah, man, sick set, bro. Like, so I'm like, maybe we have written a an all right record here. So, which is weird because obviously Sharptone wouldn't have picked it up and signed us if it was bad. But like,
exactly,
you kind of get in that mindset of like, I know being your own biggest critic. So, and we're still quite a new band in terms of output and, you know, sort of our mark on the scene and everything else. So, you know, we're all quite humble people. So yeah, it's cool. I'm a bit nervous now. So there's a long-winded way of saying I'm getting a bit nervous now because I'm like, I'm either going to be like, my head's going to get really big and I'm going to think I've written the best album ever, or I'm going to be humble. I'm going to be humbled by some really bad reviews. But either way, it's great because yeah, we've all had the chat and we're all kind of like, do you know what? It's super cool that people dig it, but it's not going to make us any less proud of the record we've created. We're all really happy with it, and if people like it, great. But if people, you know, don't get it, then that's also great. But we kind of always had the idea of let's just write something that we want to write, and then in maybe 5-10 years time, some kid might find it and think, oh, this is great. And in a way, I would kind of prefer that to a huge instant success and then you drop off and nobody cares about you anymore. I would much rather have that longevity to it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
But you have released 3 singles already, so you are getting some form of feedback. You released Fall Apart, Vital Signs, and Vacant. What's the feedback been like for these songs?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's tricky. We're not a huge social media based band, to our own detriment probably. But unfortunately, just we don't have somebody that's good at social media in the band. I was really hoping when Taz joined that there were going to be some sort of social media whiz and could just fucking palm it all off on Taz. But no. So Taz just shit posts on Twitter basically. So that's that. Yeah, like good. It's good and people seem stoked and you know we see our fan base growing and like weirdly enough cracked the Spotify algorithm, which I don't know how, which is kind of like what everybody cares about now. It's one of those things that you say you don't care about, but when you see the streams going up, you're like, it's quite nice, isn't it?
yeah.
We do it. I get it. We do it.
Yeah, you're like we had, you know, our first singles and like they're hovering at like 10, 20K for years. And then all of a sudden you drop a single and you hit 100K really quickly. And you're like, you know, or you're hitting numbers in your first week of a release that you didn't in 3 years on another song. And you're like, okay, this is kind of cool. So yeah, that's nice. Yeah, and I mean, radio wise, BBC Radio 1 have been like championing us, which is fucking cool as well. Yeah, Alex Holcomb has been with us since day dot. Dan Picard has been with us since before this album started. Dan was playing us from our last EP. Yeah, and just like a bunch of support from the team. So that's really nice as well. So yeah, no complaints from me, that's for sure.
What are the tracks on the record that haven't been released that you're really excited for people to hear? Like, especially you're especially proud of.
There's a song called Something Clean, which I am really excited. It won't be coming out as a single, but like, in my opinion, it could have been. It's very different. A lot of the songs people realize when they listen to the album that they might have like sort of forged a bit of an idea of what the album's going to sound like from the singles we released, but I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised that those are the only songs on the album that sound like that. Not that we sound completely different, but like are that vibe. So there's you never really know if like people are really digging a song and then you just chuck a song that sounds completely different out of context of an album. It might be a bit weird and you might sort of be a couple of steps back. So but yeah, I think in the context of the album, Something Clean is one that I'm like, this is just a really cool song. It's super simple. And yeah, it's a different flavor of what we do. And then also I really like the it's the second track on the record, but we will be releasing that as like a sort of a featured song off the album on Friday. So It's called "Are You With Me?" And yeah, it's like the first proper song after our intro on the album. I think that's a really cool song and is like a nice snippet of what the whole album is in like sort of condensed into one track. And there's another song called "From the Hell" as well, which is very different. But again, sonically ties into the album, but it's just a bit different for us. So it might catch people a bit off guard. And I guess I like the idea of that.
I mean, how do you even know what to release as singles? How do you even decide?
It's really difficult, isn't it? I think like for us, we really write music that we enjoy. That's like the number one criteria for us. It's like we write it for ourselves and we hope it's nice if other people like it. But if they don't, like I said that earlier, like if they don't like it, then at least we like it.
Yeah.
I think you have to have that mentality as a band personally. And I think the second you start trying to write for other people or for an agenda other than that is when you see bands drop off. And I think people think it's when a band gets big and they're no longer hungry, but I actually think it's that. It's like, oh shit, we need to keep making money, but we need to write more songs that are going to make us money. And as soon as you start thinking like that, you're cooked, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we're of the, we write the tracks that we like, and then often we just get a vibe. Sometimes it's like, I like this one. I think other people are going to like this one, maybe. Or one, like sometimes we play it live and we're like, okay, this feels good live. And we'll test it. And if people are kind of like vibing it live, like, okay, there might be something here. But then sometimes a Vital Signs track comes and nobody that would not have been on anyone's list to release as a single. And then people just keep telling us they like it. And we're like, all right, okay. We'll put it out then. Like at the end of the day, like you've written all the songs, they're all your songs, your album. If somebody really wants a song to go out, then I'm of the mindset, all right, fuck it, put it out.
People are asking for it, why not?
Yeah, or like I don't understand the idea of like, oh, I don't want to release that song. Why? What, like, why don't you want to release it? Oh, it's boring or whatever. Well, then why is it on the record?
Yeah.
It's my thought, right?
Yeah.
It's like, don't spend money recording it then. Okay, like there's other things have been like, oh, it's quite slow. It takes a while to get into. For us, like the process was kind of like we'd signed to Sharp Tone, and we were being introduced to a whole new audience of people from the label and other things. So it was kind of like, okay, well, what is the smartest song? Which song makes the most sense? That's why we started with Fall Apart. Like it's not my favorite song on the record by stretch, but it's straight into it. Like Nathan said at Sharp Tone, like you're quick into it. People don't have to think about it. They know what they're getting. Sometimes you just need to do shit like that. Whereas if we were to do something clean, it requires a little more, it requires that active listening, if you know what I mean. You have to pay a bit of attention and to see what's going on. So yeah, I think that's it. But I don't think there's any right or wrong answer for singles, to be honest. People are going to resonate with something or they're not. And
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like a shot in the dark, right? Of what's going to resonate with people. I was listening to a really great, listening to the audio book for Sold Out. Do you guys know that book?
I do not.
It's on Spotify at the moment. I'm just going to remember. Oh, sorry, it's called Sell Out. My bad. Cut that. It's called Sellout, and it's the major label feeding frenzy that swept punk emo and hardcore between 94 and 2007. And there's a bunch of chapters for different bands. And it was talking about like I think it was the Jawbreaker segment. They were basically saying they just tried to copy Green Day Dookie formula in the sense that they went with the same producer, they went with the same video guy, because when they signed to a major, they felt like that was the thing to do. And in hindsight, they were like, that was wrong, because just because that formula worked for Green Day, you can't try and repeat that formula because you might not have the bit that Green Day had that made that formula. So ultimately, I think, you got to go out and do your own thing, and you got to go with what you think is right for your band.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, only you know what's right for your band. So
yeah.
But
absolutely.
as you mentioned earlier, you do have an album release tour starting next month in March, starting in Southampton, ending in Bristol. You're hitting Birmingham, Manchester, London. How excited are you to get out there and play these songs? Because you're playing the whole album, aren't you?
We're playing the album in full. Which is a bit of a rock star move. I was like, they're like, do you know what? Fuck it. Like, we'll probably never do it again. It's our first album. But also like it was a very considered effort for the album to flow the way it flows and to be the body of work it is. So playing it live is actually like a dream set list because every song just goes into each other. It's like cool, and it has the natural ebbs and flows that you want from a set. The most difficult thing is like, right, we should probably play a couple of old tunes at the end, and it's like, oh, which ones? And you kind of like don't want to play any of them, but have to. You can't just play an album that people have only heard for a week live. Cheers, guys. We'll probably play a couple of tunes, but yeah, we just thought if not now, then when? So let's just do it to celebrate the album coming out. And we've released a bunch of singles off of it anyway. Like half of the set people would have heard, and then the other half they would have hopefully checked out. So yeah, I'm really excited. Like I said, most of these songs have never, at least half the album's never been played live, maybe slightly more than half of it. So it's going to be interesting, sort of testing, especially like the slower tracks or like the more sort of ambient vibe tracks. It'd be interesting to see how they go down. But yeah, really excited for it.
It's good because we've also got Shredler in Sheffield as well on April 12th.
Yeah.
And you're playing with some good friends of ours in Delilah Bond and Tropic Gold. So that's going to be huge as well. And my parents from Sheffield. I fucking love that city. Dude, the music culture up there. Oh, sexy. You're going to love it.
I know. Yeah, we have played Sheffield a couple of times. We played there last year on tour Boston Manor, and it's a great show. Loz, who's also putting on Shredlers, he put us on there, and yeah, it's a good time. I mean, the venues are so sick over there. They're just like they've just got abundance of warehouses up there. They're like,
yes,
what to do with them, just like turn them into venues or breweries and venues. Nothing down here, nothing like that down here.
But then there's obviously Berlin as well in July, and then 2,000 Trees.
Mm-hmm.
Mate, that lineup, man, that must be huge to be playing. That festival's great anyway.
It is, and we've never played it, and I never played it in my old band, and my old band played it last year when I wasn't in it, and I was like,
okay.
And then I'm like, oh, and then Oversize got the offer through this year. We're like, jumped at it. We've actually we were supposed to be playing Thursday. I don't think this is news to anyone, but I believe we're actually playing on the Friday now, which I'm stoked for. We're Taking Back Sunday. I'm just be crying. I brought an even bit size stage. I'll just be somewhere in a field crying to Taking Back Sunday. Yeah.
Oh mate.
Taz will be crying to Coheed and Cambria. I'll be crying to Taking Back Sunday. It'd be great. But yeah, no, really, really stoked. And like, it's reasonably local for us. We're southwest based anyway. I've been in Salisbury, and then a lot of our earlier years were spent in Bristol. In terms of the band's earlier years, our first ever show was in Bristol and stuff like that. So it's kind of, our neck of the woods. So yeah, I'm stoked.
We absolutely adore 2,000 Trees. It's such an incredible vibe there. It's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful festival.
Unfortunately I've only been once. I was guitar teching for a band a few years ago there, and I just remember thinking, oh, this is such a great vibe. This is it reminded me of a little bit of when Heavy Fest was a thing. I don't know if either of you guys went to Heavy Fest.
Never went, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
Or like what Reading used to be like. When it was like an alternative kid's dream of just a festival full of like-minded people and just great bands throughout the weekend, like a variety of bands, but just like that really good feel-good festival sense of like, this is awesome. You could just come here for a great weekend. You could watch none of the bands and have a great weekend.
Yes.
Right? Because like the vibes are good. So yeah. Stoked.
Incredible. A question I like to ask as we sort of start wrapping things up. If there's anyone listening to this and they're like, you know what, I've never heard the music before, I'm going to go check out a few songs. What are a few songs that are out there at the moment that you feel give a really good example of what you guys are all about?
Well, there's a couple, to be honest. I really love Vacant, our latest single. I think that showcases our sort of willingness to write catchy choruses. I think that's something that sets us apart from other bands in the scene, is that we have that real sort of tie into bands like Jimmy Eat World, and in even Smash Pumpkins. It's just like we love a good chorus, we love a good sing along, an earworm. So I think that's a really good example of a song that can be quite catchy but still have a lot of the same vibes from the album. I think Salt's a really good example.
Great track.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's probably why it's continues to rack up streams years after, well, a year after we released it. Because yeah, people, it's like, I guess, just quite easy to get into the vibe of it. And then I've got a really soft spot for Dare to Move, which is the first single. And I think that's the kind of the single that was a real turning point for us as Oversize. We dropped Dare to Move like a few months, or like 4 or 5 months after recording the album, just to go, let's just get some new music out. Like, when we're not having people clamoring over us to sign us or whatever, we've only released a couple of EPs, let's just put a single out. And that was the one that really like shifted the gear for us, and people were digging it and just like, yeah, this is cool. So I think I'll always have a spot for Dare to Move. I think between those 3 songs you'll get a pretty good understanding of Oversize as a band.
Mr. Stevens, do you have any more questions for our wonderful guests?
I do. How do you feel that you've evolved personally and musically since, the debut of the band to now about to releasing the debut record?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
Personally, in terms of personally evolving, I'm not sure. It's a weird thing with when you get older anyway, you just generally change. I'm just as hungry, to do it, and I love it just as much. And I guess, like I said earlier, I think just this sort of like renewed, or well, it's not even renewed, having an interest in something that you're really passionate about, and other people being interested in it, kind of really does light a fire. And you read like a good review, and again, it doesn't ultimately matter because it's not why you do it, but actually sometimes that affirmation is kind of like, we should do this. We could do this, like we can write good records. Let's write good records. So I guess that's kind of like that belief system outside of the band, having, we have a really great team, and the guys at Sharp Tone are amazing. And, we've got some agents on board, and just having people believe in you and your music, I think plays a huge part in that. And evolving as a band, I think the biggest thing again was like, before writing an album, you kind of, it's a big thing to put a first record out, and you have all these insecurities, and you kind of tell yourself it has to be perfect, and you look at certain bands and you go, well, fucking this band put this out as a debut album. Taz always talks about Block Party, Silent Alarm. It's a perfect debut album. It's like, yeah, that's a massive debut album, but we're never gonna write that album, or anything close to it. So let's not get hung up about it, and let's just do the best album that we can do right now. And I think that was like quite a good frame of mind, because like, back to an earlier point where we all write and it's like constant. In theory, we could never finish an album because we'd constantly be writing and replacing and going, oh no, this song and this song and this song, and you can't write. I would imagine that's what happens with Billy Corgan. That's why he's like, right, there's 50 tracks on this album, and right, so it's stupid. I'd imagine that's got to be how it happens. Like, there's no way he just has 50 tracks on the back burner. So yeah, I think like us playing live and touring last year more than we had in previous years, you kind of it offers another perspective. Like I mentioned earlier, like when somebody's coming to songs, you're writing them in like not a studio, but like in this room, and we're sat in this room and we're writing a song, and it sounds great on record, and it's like that's one thing. But like going out and playing live and seeing how people soak up the sort of like the energy, do people give you energy back? Is this a bit of a lull? That really kind of shifts your perspective of the sort of songs you want to write as well, for me personally. And we are kind of from the world where bands play live, so I think those are probably the two biggest take homes that I've had from sort of the really early days to now.
I love that. Absolutely. I'm so excited for this record on Friday. Like for you, for your band, for you personally, I just can't wait to see what the reaction is. I can't wait to see it getting out there, playing it live, and especially seeing it at Trees. I'm going to try and get down to the London show. I live in London, so I'm going to try and get down for the London show and come see you all as well, because that'd be great. But before I do let you get out of here, I have one last question for you, which is, again, when you started out this dream of, getting into music, playing guitar, trying drums, etc., playing bass, did you ever think this is where you'd be today?
No, it's that weird thing. Like I've had this conversation with my girlfriend a couple of times. Like it's a weird thing back. I think you have, on one hand, you have that sort of naivety to it, right? And you have that dream. And I think I was talking about this in another interview, but it's kind of like when I was sort of 16, or maybe slightly younger, maybe when I was like 14, all the bands that were blowing up were all like 16 to 18 years old. And like that's, looking back now, that's such a weird thing and like a rare thing. But like in that era, all of these bands, like, I remember there was even a Kerrang feature about like, meet the youngest stars in what, and they're all on Warped Tour, and they're all just like bands that are blowing up and have record deals and multiple albums, and the dudes are 16 to 18 years old, and you kind of go, well, when I'm 16 to 18, that's what I'm going to be doing. And then like you get to 18, you're still playing pubs, you're like, it's not happening. And then you kind of like tell yourself that you're like, oh, I'm too old. But then, and life has a weird way of full circle. And I think it's a little bit of a, like, if you just stick to it and keep doing it because you love it, then eventually some good's going to come out of it if you do it for the right reasons. And do it not with the expectancy that you're going to get something in return. I think that's the really important thing, because I think that's also why we as a band work together, is because we all have that outlet. You see some bands like pop out and they release one or two songs and it doesn't work, and then they're not a band anymore. It's like that could never be us, because we're not looking for a quick buck or a quick fix or like a quick rise to success. Like if it takes what it takes, right? And so I mean, at one point I definitely thought I'm going to be a fucking rock star by the time I'm 20, but that you're quickly humbled as you get older. But no, when I left my old band, I had really come to peace and come at terms that maybe it just wasn't supposed to be. And here I am again now, so back on the hobby horse. So but there's a little things that occasionally, like I look at my guitars behind me, or I look at my amp, so it's like, look at the shit and I'll go, you know what, like 14-year-old me would be fucking stoked if they knew I had this guitar or this amp, or just silly things like that. And I think it's like, yeah, I've got it all on finance, buddy. Well done. Like you work the finance system. you spend all of your disposable income every month for 9 months to get that. Well done. But I'm super stoked, and I'm super honored and sort of humbled to still be here, and just grateful that I kind of stuck to it. And I've ended up doing it with some really good friends. I think that's the important thing to take home from it. And I just kind of look forward to seeing wherever the journey goes next, whatever sort of road that takes. If we're just a bunch of old dudes playing some tunes in a pub, then so be it. We'll be having fun.
At the end of the day, all the success is fucking deserved, because you guys, as you said, you busted your ass, you put all your money into it. Like, you've worked hard as you fucking can to get where you are today. And to bring it back round to wrestling and your nan, what is it John Cena says? Never give up. And you fucking haven't. And look where you are. Debut album coming out now. Boom. Get a little towel.
Yeah, I should have thanked John Cena in the record liner.
Lewis, before we let you get out of here, plug social media's websites. Where can we find you in the world?
We're an Oversize band everywhere. And yeah, you'll probably have to sift through about 10 pages, but you'll find us eventually.
And if not, you'll walk away with some beautiful oversized Asian clothes.
Some
So
lovely,
you're sorted.
yeah, some lovely fast fashion items. Yeah.
Incredible. Lewis, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you for having me, guys. Really appreciate you.
Absolute pleasure. All the best with the debut record, which is obviously out this Friday. So you should be listening to it right now. After you've listened to this, go and check it out right now. Yeah. We'll speak to you soon.
Lovely. Thanks for your time, guys. Appreciate
Take care, my
it.
friends. See you later, buddy. Bye bye. Bye bye.